was controversial about the award to Bruce Ratner from the Brooklyn Museum was not that the museum wanted to honor a rich guy. I mean, that's what museums do. That's how they stay in business. I mean, we're in an age of declining public contributions to arts institutions. So, and in fact, we wrote this in the editorial. We don't begrudge the museum its right to honor Ratner. I think the big controversy was simply that Ratner is doing something very controversial. Again, for better or for worse, whether you like it or not, it is a controversial project in a neighborhood that the museum considers its home base. Now, the Brooklyn Museum has something of a love-hate relationship with Brooklyn because it's going to live or die on whether tourists from all over the world and whether Manhattanites who could easily go to the Met are going to come to Brooklyn. Brooklynites go to the Brooklyn Museum because it's their local museum, but the museum needs those international and citywide tourists. So they're honoring Bruce Ratner, maybe perceived as a slap in the face to local Brooklynites who object to the project, but citywide or internationally, it's not going to affect their bottom line.
Hi, I'm Elena Reisig, and I'm here at the Brooklyn Museum of Art for the opening of a retrospective by the Japanese artist Takashi Murakami. He's often compared to Andy Warhol because he works at the intersection of pop art, mass design, and high fashion. He's known for his work with Louis Vuitton. In fact, there's even a functioning Louis Vuitton boutique in the museum. We're not going to go shop, but we are going to mingle.
I've been given, the position many years ago to be the artistic director of Louis Vuitton, and I came across the work of Takashi, somebody whose work I found really appealing and really interesting.
There was some criticism when this show opened elsewhere, and as well as here, to have a store in the exhibits. What do you think about that?
Criticism. I mean, but when you talk about art, there is no right or wrong. There's only opinions and feelings. We don't need fashion, and we don't need wine, and we don't need beautiful interiors or gorgeous sculptures. But I mean, it makes life so much more beautiful. And
we definitely need gold sneakers, though.
We definitely need gold sneakers. I mean, besides gold sneakers, everything else is absolutely unnecessary.
Bruce and I share a love for food.
And let me add also that Ratner has given money to the museum through his foundation. It is not uncommon. In fact, it's extremely common for museums to return the favor with a gala that honors the patron. I mean, doesn't this go back to like Machiavelli and the Renaissance painters? Didn't they all have patrons? And their patrons were probably involved in some pretty nasty stuff.
Ratner is a big philanthropist to the museum, to BAM, to a lot of places. And, the museum honoring him gives him a platform to be this guy who is serving the borough and the people of Brooklyn and to speak about it. And even though the museum said, their award has nothing to do with his work as a developer, nothing to do with any of that other than his philanthropy to the museum, the Brooklyn paper quoted Ratner during his thank you speech, talking about the work he does as a developer. So it gave him a platform in front of, I don't know how many hundreds of people, to promote himself and his work as a developer, regardless of what the museum thought they were doing.
Do you want to tell us why Ratner is no friend to artists of Brooklyn?
Well, some of the buildings he's planning on demolishing or has already demolished were studios for artists. No allowance has been made for them to be moved to other studios. And the fact that the Brooklyn Museum is honoring him for anything is appalling.
Daniel Goldstein has been fighting the Atlantic Yards project since it was first announced, so it's not a shock to hear his reaction to the news that a large chunk of the $4 billion project will be delayed.
It's no news to us that the Atlantic Yards project, which has always been financially not a viable project, is now suffering even more because of what's going on with the economy.
The project has been the target of protests over its size and the impact it would have on traffic and quality of life. Legal challenges over environmental impact and the use of eminent domain have slowed it down. But now developer Bruce Ratner says the slowing economy is the culprit, and that may hold up construction of a signature office tower and 3 residential buildings. They were supposed to be part of the project's first phase, surrounding a new $950 million arena for the money-losing New Jersey Nets.
Delay it as far as you can. That's how I feel. Delay it as much as you can right now.
And it looks like, thanks to the economy, that won't be much of a problem. In Brooklyn, Roger Clark, New York 1.
Darling, it's so nice of you to come tonight for the ball.
Wow, look at this setup over here.
Yeah, Bruce over here. Bruce Ratner standing here with the crowd. He didn't want to be in the inside. He's on the outside.
There were these number of signs about Bruce Ratner, con artist, and I think anytime a big, a huge developer or any huge corporation comes around making promises and talking about how they're doing their whatever it is, project or product or whatever, on behalf of the people or the community, someone's conning you.
Con artist is a nice pun. Artist, obviously, museum. Look, we've pointed out in our paper any number of, and when I say any number, I mean any large number of actual lies. The most egregious lie, or con, if you will, is the one in which his own consultant came up with a number of the amount of money that the project would benefit the public tax coffers. And that number was originally presented in court by a Ratner lawyer as a state tax projection. It was at no time a state tax projection. It was a Ratner paid consultant tax projection. That's a lie. So if you want to say con artist, all right.
I want to say to the Brooklyn Museum, shame on you.
The egregious error about saying on your website that Frank Gehry was born in Brooklyn, when in fact, I mean, it's such an egregious error because it's so provable. Where was Frank Gehry born? Call him up. He'll say, I was born in Toronto. Not Toronto, Brooklyn, Toronto, Canada. Now, look, is it an oversight? No, I don't think it's an oversight. I think it was on the website to establish some sort of Brooklyn street cred for the design.
I think it's a total disgrace for a city-supported institution and a community-supported institution to honor a man who has so bitterly divided the community.
Well, it's a huge question to analyze the race and class war that has been fought over this project. Now, I do not think Ratner is a bad man. I've never said that. I don't think he's a bad man. There have been times when his side, and frankly the opponents of the project, have played the race card and the class card. Specifically how this project is seen, is marketed to blacks in Brooklyn as, oh, it's going to be great for blacks because we're going to get you basketball and we're going to get you jobs. The jobs are extremely low paying, and the basketball is kind of offensive to say that blacks should like the project because it's got basketball. But at the same time, there's been a little bit of a race war over the notion that a lot of the people in Park Slope and other neighborhoods have been objecting to the project on environmental grounds. It's going to cause atmospheric problems, traffic, transit. One of Ratner's chief proponents of this project is Acorn, and there have been meetings where Bertha Lewis has been really very upfront with how offended she gets by the environmental argument. She's all about jobs and she's all about affordable housing. And fine, that's within her purview to argue. I think she's been a little hypocritical on some of the issues related to that. But she can argue that. But it does sometimes boil down to a race and class battle.
I would hope and pray that we be civil for the next 3 minutes. It is clear and unmistakable from this report that ESDC is not and could not be an honest broker on behalf of the public. There are unavoidable adverse impacts that cannot be fully mitigated or are all ignored for the sake of questionable public benefits. There are far-reaching and adverse impacts on public health, air quality, infrastructure. We are reversing environmental progress, waste management controls, noise abatement, and straining to the point of choking community facilities and resources. The proposed project is not a transit-oriented development, but a traffic-oriented development. 4 weeks ago, I went to the funeral of a young little African-American girl. She was 7 years old. She lived in Fort Greene. She died from asthma. The project will elevate ozone levels, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, again, respect, and other hazardous particulates triggering asthma attacks.
Again, excuse me, can I have everybody's attention? Again, if the speaker is interrupted, the speaker's time will be increased.
And let's discuss displacement, both and indirect. There is a significant number of poor residents of color, African American, Caribbean, and Latino. This proposed project is not a well-considered plan. In fact, this poorly conceived plan is not even original. It was first It was first conceived in 1974. It failed then, it will fail now, under the weight and scale of the size determined by the people. Thank you.
The next speaker.
Here we have Miss Green of Brooklyn. She has an award for environmental destruction presented to Bruce Ratner by the Green Party of Brooklyn. Why does Bruce deserve this award?
17 skyscrapers, a taxpayer-funded arena, taking people's homes, clogging the streets, polluting the air. I mean, what better person deserves an award like this? I couldn't imagine. It's for Bruce and Bruce only.
We'll be giving him an award later tonight as well.
That was great. I hope he gets all the awards he possibly can tonight.
So we're hearing Ratner's being honored as a con artist tonight. Is that why you're here?
Stay away from the fish.
He's going to get our borough's award for greatest con artist.
I think that's a great one. And does that mean Marty will be getting runner-up as the most duped award?
Yes, Marty's been conned along with a lot of other public officials.
People are willing to be conned all over the place and all sorts of subjects. Atlantic Yards itself is from my point of view, sham is probably a better word, but con artists worked well in front of the museum that night.
I think it's a great night and that everybody's out here giving Bruce Ratner his just due.
There's no question that big industrialists of the robber baron era would devote substantial amounts of money to cleansing their reputation as kind of exploiters of labor, etc., by giving to philanthropy. Andrew Carnegie, I believe, did that to a perfection towards the end of his life.
Ratner has been a generous philanthropist with the museum. I think giving in 06 and 07, giving at least $100,000 to the museum plus whatever was brought in that night, because his job that night was to bring in as many people as he could to buy dinner plates, yeah, the money the money that he has and the fortune that he's built up has been built on taxpayer support through all of his projects. So money is fungible, and you can play a shell game, and so it takes it's not even that much, but takes some of the taxpayer money and puts it into the museum, and then allows other people to do the same because he's made this donation. Then they get a tax write-off. So it's kind of laundering of sorts with taxpayer money.
I really don't like to get into motivation. I mean, Ratner, I think it's undeniable, has done good works through his foundation and through his charitable giving. Could he give more? Yeah, but I think everybody can give more. I mean, the governor of the state of New York gave $150 in charity last year. That's a little embarrassing. Ratner's given more, so he's ahead of the governor. But at the same time, should we stand idly by while to allow a controversial figure to cleanse himself of the controversy? No, the giving is separate from the controversy. The controversy is the project. And when Ratner writes a $100,000 check to the Brooklyn Museum, I'd like to be there to take a picture and say, "Good job, Bruce," if they tell us about it in advance so we can be there.
Pigs in the blankets. Right. Don't eat the pigs in the blankets.
Yeah. Skip the shrimp. This museum should not be honoring. Ratner is a con. Ratner is a con.
Stop the skyboxes. How much affordable housing does Brooklyn get for these luxury skyboxes?
Well, zero at this point. Well, the affordable housing that we were supposed to get is gone. And we're getting a stadium, and that's all we're getting. And citizens are paying for a stadium for a team that he bought. Why?
There is no scheduled timetable for the construction of phase 2 of the project. Phase 2 of the project is the bulk of the project. It's where I think 13 buildings are, if I'm not mistaken. The vast majority of the affordable housing and the market rate housing, the entirety of the 7-acre open space that we've been promised, and a lot of the linkage between the communities of Prospect Heights and Fort Greene that Ratner has promised, although that's obviously controversial.
Well, it's just a shame that the public funds are used to make somebody feel so special after all they're doing to the community. It's terrible.
Do you know how much money Bruce Ratner has given the Brooklyn Museum?
You know, I don't. Do you know how much he's given them?
That's a secret. They won't say.
Over 200,000.
Over 200,000. Well, it's tax subsidized money.
That's our money, right? Paying for their dinner tonight.
He's getting honored for our taxpayer money that he's given to the museum. So better it come from the city than through Ratner.
Anything else you want to say to this con artist?
Oh, go back to Cleveland, Bruce.
I got to tell you, it's easy to just pick apart every little bit of Bruce Ratner's character, but I think to go to the extreme that he's just taking the public money and all the subsidies on the Atlantic Arts Project and say he's just recycling it through the museum, I mean, I think it's a little convoluted, frankly. The project is the project. The project is bad enough. I mean, we and other media outlets, blogs, etc., have pointed out a lot of flaws in this project. Let's stick to that. Ratner's involvement with the Brooklyn Museum, or Ratner's philanthropy, he gives to Bloomberg's foundation, I believe. You know, these are things that are separate.
Shame! 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 Shame!
See you, shame you too!
I think the most effective part of public outreach was yelling at people as they went into the gala, because I think that at least was a chance to reach the actual Ratner honorers to say, hey, you know, we're out here saying something. It was still light then, and people at least could hear and listen, although obviously some of the protesters were given the finger, or as I like to call it, the middle finger salute by some of the honorers.
Shame! 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 They serving rat for dinner! Shame!
Matt, who is one of the bartenders at Freddy's, you know, which Ratner wants to take in his land grab, was at the protests, and he had a sign which is on the front page of the Downtown Brooklyn Star this week. The sign said very simply, "Ratner is a vampire," and I saw Matt there holding it, you know, very high up at the car entrance on Eastern Parkway to the museum. It's not, I mean, in a way, it's not true that Ratner is a vampire, in that vampires do come out at night. But I've never seen Ratner come out anywhere, day or night.
I don't know the validity of Ratner's vampire status. I mean, I've seen him at night, so that may be an indication one way, but I've seen him in the daytime also, so I can't really speak to that.
Well, vampires do suck. I have heard people say the same about Ratner.
Serving rat for dinner! They're 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 serving rat for dinner!
Ratner's a big, what?
That's Ratner! Shame on Ratner! Ratman! Shame! 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 Ratner's down for Brooklyn!
It's a done deal! It's a done deal!
One of the protesters was carrying a sign that said "Dung deal," which I thought was very funny, because if you remember 1999, they had that sensation show at the Brooklyn Museum, which featured Chris O'Feely's Holy Virgin Mary painting, which featured some elephant dung. It was actually a very beautiful painting. If you saw it, I really liked it. It was very beautiful, although, you know, to some people offensive, etc. But the big deal was that, so "Dung deal" is like, it's referring back to, but it's sophisticated, because it's referring back to the Brooklyn Museum's intentional kind of seeking out of controversy. When it did sensation, yeah, sure, at the time the museum said, oh, we're shocked by this level of controversy. Come on, you shouldn't be shocked by a level of controversy. And again, they shouldn't have been shocked. That's what our editorial said. They shouldn't be shocked that people were outside the Brooklyn Museum protesting Ratner, even while rich people were inside cheering him. I mean, I don't think anybody should be shocked. We're all adults here. At the same time, so that's why I like Dung deal. I thought that was sophisticated.
It is unfair to Dung to compare Atlantic Yards to Dung, because Dung has a lot of uses, actually.
Tell us why it's a Dung deal!
Ratner's created the blight he complained about.
Corruption, cronyism.
No, Ratner's bad for Brooklyn.
The state of New York comes in and basically takes over this entire community. Laws of the city of New York no longer apply.
On January 23, 2004, Bruce Ratner, a nationally known developer, announced his plan for Brooklyn to build a $2.4 billion development featuring a 20,000-seat sports arena.
Some of the buildings would be 620 feet tall. Some of them would basically dwarf the surrounding communities. Some of them would basically put certain communities in the darkness and shadows 24 hours, 7 days a week.
I can look down the street and actually see sky and clouds and feel the sun in my eye or on my face. We're not going to have this anymore with this on Atlantic Avenue.
I suggest you go up and look at what Trump built. In order to really experience what Ratner is proposing, you have to add 15 to 20 stories to those buildings.
And black people ought to be particularly pleased because we're going to have a professional basketball team like we are going to share in the revenue that Ratner is going to earn. Didn't even say a basketball team, said hoops. Like we are just so childlike that if you wave basketball games in front of us, we will just swoon and fall in love with the project.
I must say this is a great opportunity for hardworking men and entrepreneurs such as myself that's been raised in these neighborhoods to finally get a chance to excel at capturing opportunities that arise.
There's no commitment that they are going to hire anyone from the community. There is no such commitment.
He promised jobs over there and everything. And people didn't get the jobs in the community. Other people got the jobs.
If you're a developer with a large, bad project that shouldn't be built, then the smart thing to do is say, you know what, I'm going to provide you with some really good affordable housing.
Affordable housing, affordable to who? 30% is moderate. Moderate to who?
Ratner's plan is to demolish this building, which was newly renovated only 4 or 5 months before this project was announced.
When I heard Ratner he gonna turn the building down, me and my family, we feel bad because I have a lot of children and I don't know where to go.
It's my property, you can't take it away. You take it away and it's for a hospital, that's one thing. Taking it away from me and giving it to some developer down the street, that doesn't sit well with people.
Westway was a done deal, the West Side Stadium was a done deal, Lower Manhattan Expressway was a done deal, but none of them happened.
Challenge this injustice because we could do it right, and that is why I stand with the community and I will see you in court. Thank you.
Hello, Sabine.
Hi, Chris.
How are you?
Good. Are you here to honor this con artist tonight?
Am I here to honor the con? Well, yes, we're here to honor the con. That's the bottom line.
He's put an amazing con on our borough, don't you think?
Absolutely, except he's getting caught. And the reality is that this isn't going to happen. We're making sure it's not going to happen. We cannot have our schools being cut, all our schools being cut, and hundreds of millions of dollars are going for a disaster known as Atlantic Yards. It can't happen. We're not going to let it happen. And people are getting wise to it. More and more people understanding this is an outrage. It was a waste of money to begin with. It was illegal. It was unconstitutional. It was totally inappropriate. Everybody's realizing it now, but people are so caught up in the everyday misery of our economy and the everyday issues of Iraq and the presidential race. They're not focused, but don't worry. They understand. This cannot stand. That's where we are.
I think what Chris Owens is saying is really focusing more on the corporate welfare thing. I mean, the public always makes decisions, some of them not so good, about where to spend money. I mean, we're obviously at war in Iraq for several years now, longer than we thought we'd be, and there's literally hundreds of billions of dollars being spent on that. And people make the argument, why don't we just finance schools a little better in the United States? So that's a national argument that in this case is local. I don't think that's necessarily the issue. The issue is on a case, on a thumbs up, thumbs down basis, is Atlantic Yards too far weighted towards the corporate welfare side? Every development in the city is subsidized to some extent. There's infrastructure improvements that the city provides. There are some tax breaks. 421A is a housing program that is, offers subsidies to develop affordable housing. The affordable housing component of Atlantic Yards was always going to be highly subsidized. We're paying for it. The public is paying for those affordable housing units. They've been presented to us, obviously, as a gift from Ratner or some part of the the trade-off so he can make his profit. We at the Brooklyn Papers, by the way, have never objected to Ratner or any developer making a profit, ever. It's never been our issue. The issue is, let's see the numbers. Are you making too much of a profit because we're subsidizing your stuff too much? We don't know the answer.
This is totally a con.
Well, he's the greatest con of our lifetime, and he's here to honor Bruce Ratner as well, or dishonor rather.
Serving money tonight?
Rat.
Rat. Get the rat out of Brooklyn.
That's right. And we will.
Money for schools! You hear that, Ratner? Money for schools! Money for schools, not for stadiums!
All he cares about is the money he'll make off of this. Even worse, if this project does get through, it will be our money paying for it, not his.
Ratner's track record is one of public subsidy. I mean, in Atlantic Center Mall, for example, there is a Department of Motor Vehicles office there. For the longest time, there was an Empire State Development Corporation office there. Those are taxpayer subsidized rentals that he's getting, because he couldn't find other tenants for that space. I mean, is he the only one who benefits from that in the city? No, by no stretch of the imagination. Is he? Is it something that should be looked at? Yeah, we should be.
Where are you from?
I'm from Pleasantville, New York.
Did you come all the way here to protest Ratner tonight?
Yes. The project offers nothing of the public. This guy did the same thing when he promised for Metrotech. He promised it would give numerous jobs to locals, and he lied. All these people are fighting for him on this. They're nothing but his forefront. Without him, he couldn't even get this far.
It's all about the luxury skyboxes, right?
Oh, of course. That's always the case is when they build new sports facilities.
It's hard to pin down how much the public is paying and supporting Ratner's project financially, but the New York Post had a story where they did a line item accounting of how much the project cost the public, and they came up with over $2 billion. It's not that simple, but it's a heck of a lot of money, whether it's $2 billion or even $1 billion.
Nobody can acquire honor by doing what is wrong. Those who give, hoping to be rewarded with honor, are not giving. They are bargaining. Milo Judeus. Fail to honor people, they fail to honor you, Lao Tzu. Rather fail with honor than succeed by fraud, Sophocles. The greatest way to live with honor in this world is to be what we pretend to be, Socrates. The most tragic thing in the world is a man of genius who is not a man of honor.